Well, I think this is going to be a quick video. A lot of people ask me when to use a serverless function. So, for example, Amazon offers Lambda functions. You can run it in, I think, in Python, Node, and I think a couple other languages. So, anyway, when should you use Lambda function? When should you go serverless? The answer generally is quite simple. You go serverless when you don't want to put too much load on your main server. But if you have one server and it's doing too many things, you can offload some of the things into a separate server. So you can create a new EC2 instance, call some endpoint there, let it do extra heavy loading, extra work, get the data back as a JSON or whatever. You can create a new server, but your main server stays there. So you're offloading some stuff from that to that. What you can also do, instead of creating a new server, you can use Lambda functions. So you have the main server. Let's say you wanna create a report, and when you're running this process of creating a report, it consumes a lot of CPU. Your A lot of requests that come into the server are bottlenecking, and they're just slow. The response time is slow. Um, so everything just slows down when you're running something like this, when you're generating a report or doing something heavy. So what you can do is create a Lambda function, um, call it whenever you want to generate a report, send the data to it, let it generate report, let it connect to the database, generate the report, and then once the report is generated, it can return it or it can save it into the database. So this Lambda function, another thing is that you do not have to just set up the entire environment. So for example, in PHP, if you're creating um, a server that runs PHP, you have to install Apache, you have to install PHP modules, and all these things. You have to set up the whole thing. But with this, with serverless, you just set up your Python dependencies, for example, um, and it's going to create the server for you. It's going to run the code, and it's gonna either store the data into database. It can connect to the database, get the data, store the data. It can upload the stuff to S3 bucket. It can return data as JSON or any other format as well. But you don't have to configure the server. It's this Lambda function. You don't have to configure nothing. All you have to do is send a request from your server to this Lambda function, which will do all the work, all the heavy lifting. So your main server is not affected there. It returns the data, and then you can store it, or you can let it store it. That's why you use Lambda for the most part, to do the heavy lifting. So your main server is not affected, and clients don't have to deal with the slow website or some other background services that run on your main website. They will continue running. They won't stop. They won't halt. Meanwhile, the Lambda can do the heavy lifting. That's why you use Lambda function for the most part.